And g'day, friends and fans, and welcome to Writing Corner. Tips to help you get started. By started, I mean with writing. Now, you don't have to be a complete novice to take advantage of these writing tips. After all, we are here for the journey and not the destination, to improve our writing as much as we can. Now, to do that, of course, please like, share, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Let your friends know about the channel. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel, my Patreon and other links are in the description below. My link tree has my books and other links. Now, of course, if you're a writer, the idea is to write. And we do it every day, whether we're writing a book, a blog, a text message, an email, or everyday social media. Your writing represents you, so it has to represent your thoughts and ideas. And my goal is not to put my thoughts, my ideas, and my style into your head, but to bring out yours, to hone your skills, to let you better communicate to me and your readers. Of course, everybody who tells you the first thing to do is to plan, because if you don't plan, you plan to fail. Now, this doesn't have to be a set goal. You could start simple. Today, I'm going to write 10 lines, 10 minutes. Or I could complete a number of words per day. Learn some new words. Go through my vocabulary. Find out what words I use too often. Usually you need a tool for this, such as Grammarly, ProWritingAid, or some other lexicon, to, of course, to help you improve your language, but you have to identify with a tool. Hemingway comes to mind, I think, identifies overused words. Now, write when it's easier for you. Many say before or after a good night's sleep. Find out what's best for you. Research has shown that people who rise early write better, and usually write better because they're relaxed, had a good night's sleep, and then go about the rest of their day. Now, one of the most common tools to writing daily are writing prompts. Whether you, of course, the best prompt, I think, is your current work in progress. But there are writing prompts to get you to write daily, whether it's a short sentence, full paragraph, or an entire chapter, if you're so bold. But it doesn't have to be. Like a couple of lines to 7 paragraphs a day will get you a novel. There's no competition. There is an award for writing 20 novels over 10 or 1. Was it A.C. Salinger only wrote 1 or 2, but only published 1, and Tolkien a couple. I don't know, a lot of writers who actually became famous who wrote lots of books and yet only famous for that 1 book. Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke were very prolific. Philip K. Dick, another very prolific writer. Yet their fame is very narrow compared to others. And of course, if you're out there trying to chase fame, join the line. There's a million of us. And it's a million per year growing. And Yeah. Get accustomed to writing. That means writing daily. I think this is going to be repeated often because it needs to sink in why you're writing daily. Get inspired by research. Now, some research, as we've been through this in many other videos, take notes as you read. Research your topics. If you're going to write fantasy, learn some of the fantasy tropes. That's a good one. My elves are better than your elves. Everybody compares elves to Tolkien. But you know what? There are so many different elves. And if you go through folklore, you'll find lots more. Flower elves, field elves, mountain elves, dark elves, black elves. They're not the same. The Swavi, who actually may not be elves. More like gnomes. Though J.K. Rowling, for some reason, calls them elves. Yeah, shove that in your pipe and smoke it because Tolkien, my elves are better than your elves. Some will tell you to always carry a notebook and pen. We've been through this. Tools. Your greatest tool is your phone for making notes when you're researching, when you're reading. While you're reading those ebooks, highlight some excellent passages and understand how to best convey language. Of course, Grammarly and a lot of other tools are going to tell you to stop being so flowery, and some readers may find this difficult. Don't write for fifth graders. I know it worked for J.K. Rowling, but do you have $1 million PR agent? No? Well, good luck. Because if you don't have a multi-million-dollar PR behind you, people are going to instantly call you, instantly going to compare your stories to children's books. Remember, there are more negative critics than positive critics. The loudest voices are not always your buyers. There are so many problems with trying to promote yourself. So before we get to promoting yourself, let's get you started on writing and improving your writing. I know I'm promoting myself and I'm trying to also promote my writing, but I am trying to improve my writing and pass on what I know, because I've seen it. I've seen so many people out there. They're buying these $27 books. I can't believe it. I wish I wrote these 30 odd pieces of knowledge that I've gathered up into one $27 book on eBay or Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Maybe that's what I should have done instead of a video. Sorry for giving it to you for free. I guess you might pay $27. I don't know. But I see a lot of them out there. How to write. And they're not even, none of the names I recognize. So don't criticize me for not being known. Guess it's my mug, you know. But anyway, experiment with writing prompts. Try writing different. You get writing prompts, try to write them in different genres. This expands your mind, but remember, if you're writing science fiction, you're going to have to put in maybe a bit of romance, a bit of action, a bit of put in a lot of world building. Outline. Well, often you find yourself rambling. You need a clear structure. Every story has a beginning and an end. The journey. Now, that journey is going to change along the way. That the first casualty of contact with the enemy, in this case, the pen to paper, the ideas that you wrote in your outline are going to change along the way. Don't marry yourself to this outline, but at least have an idea and organize yourself. Now, I'm actually classified as a disorganized person. I have a disorganized personality. I am messy. I am inconsistent. And at times I ramble. I try to deal with it. Every time you're told to keep it brief. Yeah, could you imagine if Tolkien kept it brief? Ha! But however, there are times when you're going to have to keep it brief. Yes, once you've introduced a character, now and again you can have him scratch his chin, pull a nose hair. But today's writing, and you see a lot of people who pad it, you see 500-page books which cost you $10, and you read them and you don't feel fulfilled because every page is dialogue with people scratching their nose, flying a plane, launching a missile, bouncing around the room, pounding their chest, anything to spice up the dialogue, If you read the movie adaptation book of Indiana Jones, you get a blow-by-blow of every action. Yeah. Try to communicate the ideas that you want, the expressions. Yes. He said with a smile on his face. He said cheerfully. He said woefully. Sorrow. Heavy brow. Try to keep try not to keep it brief, but try to add the emotion and dialogue, and then keep the actions as separate as possible. But of course, there are going to be times of walk and talks or other actions going on while they're talking. Now, active voice. Active voice is animating your writing so that the subject is acting on the verb. The dog fetched the paper. The mayor signed the bill into law. Most of it is simple, but it gets harder over time. I tend to apparently lax into passive all the time. But passive is a great way to superfluous words from your writing. But where's the emotion? Where's the description? Here's the problem. Superfluous words. Well, could you imagine if we went through, say, Harry Potter and cut out superfluous words? Yeah, 5-page dialogue. Harry gets up in the morning, scratches his nose. Woe is me, he says, as people have given him a magic wand. It's probably worth $1 billion. Oh, woe is me, I have a vault full of gold. Oh, woe is me. I lost my parents. So is everybody else. Woe is me. I'm in an exclusive private school. Woe is me. I'm getting picked on by a bully. Blah, blah, blah. Woe is me. Girls all want to be with me. Oh, woe is me. Oh, the villain. He touches me and dies. Woe is me. Wow. Like, glorious advice, right? But yeah, it's actually a good idea that there are times you do need to cut the excess. You do need to cut superfluous words from your writing if you are going on a 4-page dialogue of the beauty of the garden. Unless, of course, you're writing an epic poem about that garden. We all have our moments. We've all read books that are glorious, except for that one chapter. Everybody's got that chapter. Don't be ashamed of it. Own it. Move on. Ignore the critics. Same with active voice. Supposed to be confident, self-assured. Great way to project action. But I'm trying to think of an example. And every time, passive voice, quick example of passive voice. Passive voice, when you want to calm things down. You always keep getting told to use active voice, but there's uses for passive voice. And it's found in many languages. It's a better option in writing when you want to have emotion. And examples of the difference. Active voice. Beautiful drafts roam the savannah. Now, of course, you have the passive voice. The savannah is roamed by beautiful drafts. When to use active voice? Action. When to use passive voice? Emotion. When you want to be bold, I finished my homework. When you're writing a little kid, my homework's done, Mum. You're not going to be very... You also got to remember, kids aren't going to be projected, especially when they are passive voice and lying about it, right? I finished my homework. Yeah, I finished it, Mum. My homework's done, Mum. Yeah. I'm really struggling with active and passive, and I think don't look down, if you can't get it right the first time. Heck, some days, what's a noun again? Oh, wait. Grammarly's complaining that that I'm not consistent in my capitals, but there's always going to be something that's going to trip you up. Context. A lot of people talk about backstory, right? Backstory is one of these issues that everybody seems to have an opinion on, particularly when you're introducing characters and you have flashbacks and backstories. Not everybody needs a backstory. Not every second paragraph has to be a flashback, flash forward, a twist. You don't need a climax and a plot in a plot that turns out that then halts, so we can have the tragic, so we can have the villain reveal himself to be some sort of anti-hero and a crusade against capitalism or something like that. No. Sometimes the villain's a villain, and sometimes the hero is a hero. That's it. But the context just is there, so you you confront the villain, and the villain might say, "You think I'm the bad guy? What about all those corrupt politicians? Oh, you're a greedy capitalist." Or, the bad guy's never going to say, "Oh, you got me, I'm the villain. Oh, you're so clever." No, don't put... Maybe unless you're writing Scooby-Doo, right? All right, sorry. I've been inconsistent, aren't I? You do you, but I'm just saying, if you want to be realistic, don't write like Scooby-Doo. Oh, where the villain goes, "Oh, you got me. I'm going to confess." Mind you, there are plenty of mystery novels that do it too. Formatting matters. But understand, as you're writing, of course you're not going to always put the commas in the right place, but at least try as you write to get at least the basic grammar basic commas, basic full stops in place. And here's a tip. Don't always plan your exact formula. Some will say 5, 7, 9, 11, 7, and then go 5, 7, 9, 11. You know, keep your paragraphs at different lengths. You're not going to do that at a time. In fact, the whole idea of a paragraph is to put sentences together of the same action and same action and thoughts. That's it. There could be 1 to 2. They're usually at least 2 sentences, although there can be 1. And you can have dialogue up to 3, 4 paragraphs. It depends. You know, giving a speech, it's going to be a full page. Just format it as you go, so that when you read it back, you know where you're at. Don't be angry. Don't be, unless it's inside dialogue. You're trying to actually entice the reader, not reject the reader. Trying to think. Angry. What's the... It's angry writing is where you use a lot of negativity. Of course, there are times where it's proper to use angry or woeful or negative descriptions. Dystopia, post-apocalyptic, horror. Proofread. Even if you've got an editor, proofread first. Know what they're gonna ask you questions like, why did this person do this? That's fair. That's what they're there for. Just know what they're talking about. So you've proofread it, so you know. Proofread. It's best to edit chapter by chapter. That way you're not trying to remember the whole book. Conversations need to be natural and fluid. Think of your own conversations. Try to, even now, I was thinking, geez, I've gone on too long. But it's all about context, isn't it? Like, you're trying to inform, not entertain. I'm trying to inform, not entertain. But yes, please try to entertain and not inform. Except maybe when it comes to, say, what shall we call it? The world building, the giving context to descriptions and settings. Then you want to be as brief as possible. Minimize that. Of course, there's a caveat. There's words like, really, and fluff. Fluff. Adding adjectives to every noun. We all fluff. I fluff a lot. My style is fluff. Be a storyteller. We're painting a picture. So you're going to have fluff. If you're a storyteller, there's going to be fluff. Now, I read this and I thought twice. Now, there's 2 rules of storytelling. One is the who did what, to whom, and when, and why, and how. But then Pixar decided, no, we're going to call it Once Upon a Time, There Was, Every Day, Did, One Day, Something Happened, and because of that, they did this, that, and the other, until finally this happened. Once upon a time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stages of a movie, each spaced to take up 90 minutes. 6. So you have a bunch of, you eventually break it down and you'll have 98 activities, which all sentences, it comes down to, you eventually come out to a 150-page book, and there you go. But these guides, they're built up over time of writing and writing and writing and writing. Try and put yourself in the reader's place as you're proofreading your work. The idea is to fascinate the reader with detail that is not lingering. And this is hard to know when you're lingering. This is when beta readers are going to tell you, whoops, you're lingering. Lingering's when you're stuck in the detail of the scenery, the breathtaking scenery. Maybe, again, we come down to that formula. Do we use the formula? Perhaps. Know it as a sawtooth. 5, 7, 11, 7, 5. Sawtooth. 6 to 8 times. Comes down to the Pixar rules of storytelling, which is overlapped by Disney and other movies. How to deal with writer's fatigue, writer's block, writing cramps. Let your writing rest, refresh, review, come back with fresh eyes after a coffee, a nap, or wait for the editor to do their thing. Of course, the editor is going to tell you what's filler. Usually cliches, overused words, adverbs. Now here's the thing, commas. Commas are a problem, especially when your readers are mostly other writers. Some are going to hunt that missing comma and berate you for it. You're going to run into grammar Nazis sooner or later. There is one in every genre for every author. There's a grammar Nazi out there waiting to find you. Now, believe it or not, some will tell you to write your linear story. This usually works. There are times when non-linear stories work. The most famous, I think, is Pulp Fiction, non-linear storytelling. However, tends to lend themselves with standalones. You see problems. Now let's take The Flash. The Flash is non-linear. It's a time travel story. Therefore, it confuses for about an hour, tries to unravel that confusion in the last 30 minutes, and has lots of filler. By the time you get past the first hour and actually start to enjoy the story, it's over and you're left unsatisfied. It feels unfulfilled. That's because nothing's in the right order. There's missing scenes, missing revelations, or moments that are too short, so you miss them yourself and have to. Of course, not everybody's going to go back to watch the movie just to understand it. No, they're going to talk it out with others and they're all going to come to the conclusion, well, if I didn't understand it, you didn't understand it, we're not going to unravel it. We're just going to not like it. And that's, if they could do that to a big movie, what do you think? You think you got chances? Well, J.K. Rowling had $1 million campaign. Are you going to spend $1 million or $2 million on a campaign to have some professionals clear the air? and tell you, well, the story's going to meander, but in the end, trust me, it's worth reading. And then you read the end and you go, no, it's not. And that's the problem. If it ain't in the right order, you can have a meandering story. You can have a Pulp Fiction-like broken story out of order. But if the reader or enough readers can't put it together, you'll have a Flash on your hands. And trust me, the Flash didn't meander or break up as much as Pulp Fiction, yet people followed Pulp Fiction quite well. It's those few important moments that needed to be longer. Now, here's a part that I find hard. Reading aloud or using read aloud. You know, in Word, there's a lot of README apps that will read the story to you. Now, here's another one I struggle with. And people have told me this many times. Mistakes you make often. I overuse and. I use too many adjectives. I meander. I introduce too many characters. I don't give many characters backstories. The list goes on. But that's my style. Do you need the backstory of the waitress, the prostitute, the nose picker, that cranky elf sits on the couch? This is the problem. There are more critics than there are praisers. But you are going to make mistakes, and we all have struggles. Mine is and. The. There are words that are commonly misspelled. I have depends who I ask. I have a language center disorder. Certain words, phrases, actions, commas, a whole bunch of stuff, even trying to convey a message, I'll meander. I will think I wrote absolute stunning prose. Don't ask me the next day what I wrote, though. A lot of writers, a lot of publishers will ask you, who's your intended audience? I know my audience. They are mature. They like science fiction. They like fantasy. They like stories from a non-human perspective. And it turns out there's not many of them. Welcome to the real world, son. 99% of all books do not have a large audience. But then again, superheroes didn't have a large audience. I think, the first Superman sold them less than 10,000? There was a time where Superman was king of the world. Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man were the top 3 comics, and every week they sold dozens. This week, they announced they're stopping the male Kal-El, the Peter Parker Spider-Man, and it looks like Batman is returning to the Batman the Detective, so Batman the Vigilante, the Violent Vigilante, and Batman of the Future, and all those, they may be gone, no longer print or sidelined. 63 years there's been a Peter Parker every month. Disney's doing this, of course, to try and destroy Sony. But there's ways and means to fix these things, because really it just opens up a whole world to you, Peter Parker fans. Seize the day. Don't let them control what you like. Just like the writer cannot control the reader. Think about the books you like, and you go, well, I actually like that, and I like that style. That's you. Do you do you. When you're thinking about your ideal reader, an open-minded person who will like my writing, not judge my writing. If you could catch the meaning and the nuances of the difference between liking something and judging, which is where you come to family and friends. Start with family and friends, but eventually you're going to have to find beta readers who are not just highly critical, but accurately critical. Get a hand from some tools. Some of them are free. I've done videos on them. Make sure you use them. And of course, reading and learning. Practice makes perfect, they say. Well, in my case, practice just makes more practice. But hopefully in my journey and my parting of my experiences in trying to improve my writing and overcome my difficulties, I can help you. I'm just here helping myself, I know. Sometimes I'm speaking to myself, sometimes I'm only speaking to a handful of people. But sometimes I see on Rumble, I see a couple of people on Rumble say hi, a couple of people on YouTube say hi. How you all doing? Hope you're enjoying yourself. Hope I am helping you. Whether you're a seasoned writer, novice, professional, nobody knows it all. Sometimes it's dumb luck. Sometimes it's having no competition in your genre. And don't forget, they may tell you at the start, oh, there's fantasy and there's science fiction. And no, it starts to branch out. Military science fiction is totally different from space opera. Urban fantasy is quite different from contemporary fantasy or high fantasy. Not all fantasy has magic. Not all fantasies have elves or dwarfs or giants. So, you do you. Be the best writer you can be by being the best at what you know what to do. And if you're learning and expanding, perhaps we'll eventually get to a point where readers are not following the fads and trends set by gatekeepers who are merely exploiting you, getting you to pay them lots of money to achieve nothing. Publishers cannot guarantee you sales. Not anymore. Publicists cannot guarantee sales or guarantee success. That doesn't mean you don't need an agent or a publicist or a PR. It just means understand that by hiring them, you know what you're getting into. Assistance, insight, knowledge, a step up. Somebody there who will treat and retreat your stuff, support you along the way. If that's what you want and that's what you're willing to pay for, that is absolutely what you're going to get. And if it's worth that, if it's worth it to you, don't let anybody talk you out of it. But I'm just warning you about the gatekeepers out there, particularly agents, who will promise you big things if you sign with them, and they'll throw maybe 20, 30,000, or even maybe up to 300,000. But just if you don't know what you're worth, they do, and they're going to take you for it. So do your best to be your best writer first before you worry about going to agents and publicists and editors and all these other things. Once you know what you're worth and know what's out there, and you've seen other writers and heard from other writers, then you can say, well, yes, I know this this publicist and this book cover guy. I know this editor. I've heard of good things about them. That's first, get your writing under control before you start thinking about publicists and agents and all these other things. Now, I've interviewed some amazing writers, and I hope to interview some more soon. I've got some coming. So please like, share, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And my links are in the description below. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you all in the next video.